At 10 o'clock in the morning, Luo Xiaosu hid in an unfamiliar bathroom, unable to muster the courage to step out. Her mind was still foggy. How did she end up sleeping with her boss, and why did his parents show up at that exact moment? The faint scent of sandalwood filled the bathroom, but its usual calming effect did nothing for Luo Xiaosu this time. She couldn't begin to describe the terror she felt when she opened her eyes to see Gu Qin's parents and Gu Qin himself. She had been nestled in Gu Qin's arms, her head resting on his arm, and her other hand on his waist. Gu Qin's waist was lean, and his skin felt smooth. In her daze, she even pinched herself. At that moment, Gu Qin, in a very surprised tone, asked, "Mom, Dad, what are you doing here?" When Gu Qin said this, Luo Xiaosu clearly felt his hand on her shoulder tighten. Gu Qin's father coughed lightly, covering his mouth, and his mother's eyes darted around, looking extremely uneasy. In a panic, Luo Xiaosu blurted out, "I need to go to the bathroom." Of course, what she really wanted to say was probably that she wanted to disappear into a hole in the ground. Hearing this, Gu Qin moved his arm, allowing Luo Xiaosu to get out of bed more easily. But just as she was about to get out of bed, she realized she was completely naked. Gu Qin's parents tactfully walked away, and Gu Qin, raising his arm, took a shirt from the nearby sofa and handed it to her. It was the shirt Gu Qin had worn to work the day before yesterday, blue-gray and soft. The room was very quiet, the atmosphere indescribable, like a scene in a play where the harder you try to cover up, the more obvious the flaws. She had just draped the shirt over herself and was about to get out of bed when she realized her slippers were nowhere to be found, only the high heels she had worn the day before. She tiptoed a few steps, and Gu Qin, still in bed, said in a low voice, "Where mine? The floor is cold." Oh. So now the small bathroom was filled with Gu Qin's scent. She looked at the pair of ridiculously large slippers on her feet, feeling both happy and sad. It was as if her heart was suspended in midair. When Gu Qin revealed the answer in a while, her heart might either crash to the ground or joyfully float. Would he pretend nothing happened, or give her an explanation? Or could she nobly say, "It's okay, we're all adults, let's not dwell on it"? Thinking of this, Luo Xiaosu started crying, recalling her many years of secret admiration for Gu Qin. Was today the day it all ended? All those nights of restless longing, the hardship and timidity of following Gu Qin since college, all those moments replayed in the small bathroom. 5 years ago, just before the start of the university semester, Luo Xiaosu fell seriously ill. By the time she recovered, school had already been in session for 2 days, and the senior who had promised to pick her up had suddenly canceled. "Junior, I'm really sorry. Something urgent came up. I asked my roommate to pick you up." Luo Xiaosu received this voice message on WeChat along with a contact card. Standing at the school gate with her suitcase, she felt lost and unsure of what to do. Just as she was about to reply, she received a friend request from the senior's roommate, who had a simple note, "Gu Qin." The bustling crowd around her seemed to quiet down, and her initial anxiety began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of calm. Gu Qin asked for her location, which she quickly sent over. Unexpectedly, he replied with a single word, "Stupid." This word left her baffled. After a moment, Gu Qin clarified, "Why are you at the East Campus? Stay there, I'll take a taxi to pick you up." She swore she had no idea that the university's 3 campuses were so far apart. She had assumed they were connected by a large corridor, like in her high school. That day, Gu Qin wore a black baseball cap, giving off an unapproachable vibe, as if he was annoyed with her. He thought, this girl is in college. Why is she still using such childish things? He felt embarrassed carrying her Winnie the Pooh suitcase, and he couldn't understand why she had such a big cartoon cat hanging from it. Her pink short-sleeved shirt was also an eyesore, making him wish he could keep a 10-meter distance from her. If it hadn't been for his friend's last-minute issue, he wouldn't have come to replace him. After Luo Xiaosu asked Gu Qin a few questions without receiving any response, she stopped trying to make conversation and simply followed him silently. But Gu Qin walked quickly, and she was soon out of breath after only a few steps. Luo Xiaosu finally caught up to him near the dormitory building, smiling brightly as she thanked him. Gu Qin responded with a faint Later, when Gu Qin went abroad for a 2-year exchange program, Luo Xiaosu learned that the person who had picked her up on the first day of school was a well-known senior in the computer science department. Gu Qin was well-liked by the teachers, so she often heard his name mentioned in lectures. She began to follow his updates on social media, eagerly liking and commenting on his posts. She also sent him holiday greetings, to which he sometimes responded and sometimes didn't. But Luo Xiaosu didn't mind. Her admiration for him was pure and without expectation of anything in return. One day, while she was looking at Gu Qin's social media, her roommate saw it, causing a stir in the dormitory. "Xiaosu, you actually have Senior Gu's WeChat? Share it with me, share it with me. I want it too." Reluctantly, she sent a message to Gu Qin. "My roommates have some questions they want to ask you. Can I share your contact with them?" Gu Qin replied almost instantly with a single word. However, several days passed and Gu Qin hadn't accepted their friend requests. Luo Xiaosu had no choice but to ask him, "Why haven't you accepted their requests yet? You sharing my contact is one thing, whether I add them is another." Gu Qin had fewer than 300 friends on WeChat, all mentors and people he admired. He never added irrelevant people, and his contact list was full of pending friend requests. He also had a habit of deleting contacts frequently. The fact that Luo Xiaosu remained on his list until now was likely a coincidence. The only reason Gu Qin kept her around was because he found her amusing. She was so clumsy that her existence felt like a joke. 2 years later, Gu Qin returned to China. At the moment he stood in the airport in England, he suddenly felt a bit lonely. He scrolled through his contacts and, for the first time, sent Luo Xiaosu a message. It was a simple one. "I'm coming back to China." Considering it was the first time Luo Xiaosu had received a message from Gu Qin, she was excited but also cautiously asked, "Is this a group message?" "No, just to you." "Should I come to pick you up?" "Okay." Later on, Luo Xiaosu often reminisced about that day. If there had to be a catalyst in their relationship, she believed it was Gu Qin's initiative this time. That message about coming back marked a clear milestone in Luo Xiaosu's life, distinguishing her admiration and affection for Gu Qin. Luo Xiaosu had always maintained a neutral attitude towards this aloof senior. She didn't like him until she saw him at the airport, weary from travel. At the moment their eyes met in the crowd, it felt as though they had been in love for many years. If love at first sight truly existed, Luo Xiaosu would use this term to describe their second year of acquaintance. Though it sounded incredible, she indeed fell in love with him that day. After that day, she orchestrated numerous, coincidental, encounters on campus, greeted him whenever possible, and attended his classes whenever she had the chance. Gu Qin saw through her little tricks, but chose not to expose her and tacitly allowed her behavior. After all, if someone as silly as her could survive in this world, it must be a testament to society's tolerance. Therefore, he decided to be a bit more tolerant of her as well. Her affection for him was neither flamboyant nor aggressive, but subtle and indirect. Her care and love for him were like spring cherry blossoms, beautiful but without any pressure on him. During Luo Xiaosu's senior year, Gu Qin graduated and joined a promising small company. She wrote the company's name in her diary, making it her top choice for future employment. When the internship period during her final semester arrived, Luo Xiaosu unhesitatingly sent her resume to Gu Qin's company. At the end of the internship, there was an exam in addition to the regular evaluations. Her written and interview scores were not particularly impressive, but to her surprise, she successfully secured a permanent position. On the day she was officially hired, Gu Qin was appointed as the general manager of the company. It turned out that this company belonged to Gu Qin's family. Although it was not large, it was growing rapidly. This realization made Luo Xiaosu feel even more distant from Gu Qin, so she hid her feelings for him even deeper. Unexpectedly, last night marked a significant leap in their relationship, leaving Luo Xiaosu feeling a bit lost. Perhaps her affection for him was no longer a secret, or maybe she was about to leave with this secret forever. Last night was the company's celebration banquet. Throughout the event, Luo Xiaosu was restless. Near the end of the banquet, she finally gathered the courage to approach Gu Qin. "General Manager, I'd like to propose a toast." Luo Xiaosu wore a black cocktail dress, the strap across her collarbone highlighting her fair skin. By that time, she had already drunk quite a bit, her cheeks rosy. Gu Qin clinked his glass with hers without a word and downed his drink in one go. Seeing Gu Qin give her face, Luo Xiaosu foolishly drank her entire glass as well, smiling brightly at him. "Have you had too much to drink?" Gu Qin asked. Luo Xiaosu hiccuped and grabbed another drink from a waiter's tray. "No, I haven't." "Stop drinking. Go home," Gu Qin said. As soon as he spoke, Luo Xiaosu obediently looked around and noticed that her colleagues had left. Seeing her frown, Gu Qin couldn't help but ask, "What's wrong?" "They flew back to England. They said they were going back," Luo Xiaosu replied seriously, but Gu Qin could see she was genuinely drunk. "I'll take you home." Luo Xiaosu fell asleep as soon as she got in the car. No matter how much Gu Qin tried to talk to her, she didn't wake up. Left with no choice, he took her to his place. Gu Qin lived in a downtown apartment with 2 bedrooms and a living room. One room was his study, and the other was his bedroom. He put Luo Xiaosu on his bed, took off her shoes, and covered her with a blanket. She stayed asleep the entire time. Leaving her alone, Gu Qin went to take a shower. However, by the time he finished, Luo Xiaosu had stripped naked, likely one of the few women who enjoyed sleeping in the nude. The bedroom light was off, but a mysterious light source illuminated Luo Xiaosu's body, half covered by the blanket. Gu Qin felt a tightness in his lower abdomen at the sight. Nevertheless, he calmly covered her with the blanket and went to work in the study. After going through a few documents, he became increasingly agitated. After struggling for a while, he decided to go back to the bedroom to sleep. That night, he kissed her, finding it better than he imagined. He touched her breasts and buttocks, but did nothing more. Despite the difficulty, Gu Qin didn't want their first time to be on such an unclear night. He held her tightly, suddenly eager to see her reaction the next morning. What he hadn't anticipated was his parents' unexpected visit. In the bathroom, Luo Xiaosu grabbed a tissue, folding and unfolding it repeatedly. She had often fantasized about them holding each other and waking up together in the morning. However, she never imagined it would happen as an accident, and she had no memory of what happened the previous night. Just as Luo Xiaosu was lost in her thoughts, she heard a knock on the bathroom door. She had been sitting there for so long that her legs were numb. "Aren't you coming out yet?" Gu Qin's voice made her heart skip a beat. She picked at her fingers before slowly responding, "Coming." She buttoned up Gu Qin's shirt from top to bottom, but her long, bare legs were still exposed. When she opened the door, she forced a bright smile at him. Gu Qin, fully dressed, stood there with a calm expression. "Once you're dressed, come out to the living room." "Oh," Luo Xiaosu mumbled, then hesitated before asking, "Where to?" "The living room." "Oh." It seemed that was the only word she could manage to say today. Her clothes, which she had tossed everywhere the previous night, were now neatly folded on the bed. Luo Xiaosu's hands trembled as she picked them up, unable to fathom how intense things had been last night. After changing back into her clothes from yesterday, she sat nervously on the living room sofa. Gu Qin's parents looked unhappy, their expressions somewhat grim. Luo Xiaosu sat opposite them, too scared to breathe loudly. After a long silence, they finally spoke. "We're a traditional family. Since this has happened, you should get married." "Married?" The word made Luo Xiaosu's mind go blank. She stared at Gu Qin, seeking answers. Gu Qin simply asked her, "You slept with me. Don't you plan to take responsibility?" "I slept with you? Didn't you come to toast me last night?" "Yes." "Didn't you come to my house and end up in my bed?" "Yes." "Then shouldn't you take responsibility?" "Yes, but marriage should be based on love." As soon as Luo Xiaosu finished speaking, Gu Qin's mother looked at her as if she had just heard a joke and asked sternly, "You don't love my son?" It wasn't wise to question a mother's child's attractiveness. Luo Xiaosu quickly rebutted, No, I do love Gu Qin, but he doesn't love me. Don't worry, he will love you in time. We have other matters to attend to. Let's have our parents meet another day. Even after Gu Qin's parents had walked far away, Luo Xiaosu stood there, dazed, unsure of what to think. Today, Gu Qin seemed particularly patient, waiting for Luo Xiaosu to speak first. After a long time, she finally said, "Oh no, I forgot to ask for leave today. My attendance bonus." But another voice in her head retorted, "Who cares about an attendance bonus when you're the general manager's wife?" No, it's the weekend today. After an intense internal struggle, Luo Xiaosu sneaked a few glances at Gu Qin and hesitantly asked, "Are you serious about this?" "What else?" "But I don't have money to marry you." "I'll marry you." Just as Gu Qin finished speaking, his phone rang. It was the company calling. He glanced at Luo Xiaosu and gave her his home address. "Order some takeout for yourself. We'll discuss the marriage tonight." From Gu Qin's tone, marriage seemed like a negotiable business deal. Wait for me at home." Gu Qin returned earlier than expected, around 5 in the afternoon. The sun hadn't completely set yet, casting a gap between it and the ground. He brought dinner and several brand new outfits for women. When he arrived, Luo Xiaosu was sitting by the window, looking miserable. It was the first time Gu Qin had seen her so downcast. The apartment was on the second floor, with many trees outside the bedroom window. Fortunately, the window was large, allowing sunlight to sneak through the leaves and illuminate Luo Xiaosu's face. Gu Qin put down his things and walked towards her. "What are you thinking about?" "Well, I think maybe we shouldn't get married yet. This was an accident, and I'm really sorry. You could marry someone better and more beautiful." Luo Xiaosu had spent the entire afternoon contemplating. If Gu Qin's family weren't so traditional, he probably wouldn't choose to marry her. This realization made her uncomfortable. After all, every girl wants her marriage to be based on love, not necessity. Gu Qin frowned slightly and gently pinched her cheek. "You are a bit ugly, but you'll do." "But what? You don't want to take responsibility for me?" "Of course not." "Then stop overthinking. Change your clothes and let's eat." The sky outside gradually changed color, resembling the blue-gray of an ink painting. The streetlights began to turn on one by one. At the dining table, Luo Xiaosu watched Gu Qin's face closely. Thinking about it, she realized they had known each other for 5 years. Although they had never been close, who could say that their encounter wasn't destined? Gu Qin's face was still as sharp and cold as when they first met. He had a high and cold personality with a bit of a sharp tongue. Besides being good at studying and working, Luo Xiaosu couldn't pinpoint any other qualities that attracted her to him. But isn't that how love works? She didn't even know why she loved him. The table was full of her favorite foods. Her hunger had overpowered her rationality. She sat at the table, trying to resist the urge to eat. Finally, Gu Qin handed her chopsticks and said, "Eat up." The loungewear Gu Qin bought for Luo Xiaosu was light brown, with sleeves that were too long for her arms. As she struggled to roll them up, Gu Qin took her hand and carefully folded the sleeves for her. Luo Xiaosu was so surprised that she dropped her chopsticks. Her face turned red, and her heart filled with sweetness. "Why are you suddenly so nice to me? Before, you had nothing to do with me. From now on, we're family." Was this a confession? Gu Qin said it so calmly, but it felt like a cat's paw was scratching at Luo Xiaosu's heart. She realized that Gu Qin wasn't really cold. At that moment, she believed he could become gentle for someone he cared about, softening his edges to be considerate. Unable to hold back, Luo Xiaosu asked, "Will you always be good to me?" "I will." The food on the table suddenly lost its appeal for Luo Xiaosu. Her eyes were entirely focused on Gu Qin. With barely any food touched, they began discussing their marriage. "Although this marriage was unexpected, I have a request. Can we promise to be faithful to each other?" she asked. "I'm not interested in dealing with other messy relationships," Gu Qin replied. "And you can't abuse me, okay? I can't fight back." "All right. Given your recent behavior, I've decided to take responsibility for you. Gu Qin, let's get married." This negotiation seemed to go much smoother than expected. Luo Xiaosu knew Gu Qin didn't love her, but she had already taken so many brave steps for this love. When it came to marriage, she was practically running towards him. She was willing to entrust her lifelong desires and dependence to this man. Although she didn't have much confidence that Gu Qin would fall in love with her, she had no regrets about her love. Simple-minded Luo Xiaosu seemed to have an easier time finding happiness. The day they got their marriage certificate was a sunny day. Luo Xiaosu couldn't stop touching the red certificate, her heart racing. At that moment, her longing for love was like an unquenchable fire. Can we not have a wedding ceremony for now? She asked. Why? Gu Qin responded. Let's keep it private for now, until our relationship is more stable. Gu Qin leaned in. How do you plan to stabilize it? Luo Xiaosu was momentarily flustered by his proximity and couldn't find her words. Gu Qin continued, we will have a wedding. The date has already been set for late October. We have a few months, no rush. Luo Xiaosu silently counted the days. A few months would be enough to see if this was a dream or an impending disaster. Since their relationship wasn't public, Luo Xiaosu continued her routine, just moving in with Gu Qin and changing her end-of-day location. Transitioning from living alone to sharing a life with someone else, from distance to closeness, she felt a bit out of place at first. In the evening, she stood nervously at the bedroom door and shyly asked, "Are we going to sleep together?" "What else?" Gu Qin responded, amused by her reaction. She bit her lip, looking resolute, prompting him to add, "What's there to be nervous about? Haven't we already slept together?" Luo Xiaosu pounded her head. "I don't remember it very well." Gu Qin hugged her from behind and gently kissed her ear. "Then let's help you remember." Luo Xiaosu was extremely nervous. The room was eerily quiet, with only the sound of the clock's mechanism ticking away, like a lonely traveler in the vast silence. But when Gu Qin kissed her, she felt as if flowers were blooming densely in the tranquility. The city's night no longer felt so lonely and unbearable, with neon lights flickering outside and the moonlight in the distance. Luo Xiaosu trembled, feeling as if a train was running over her body again and again. The various sensations made her feel like this was her real first time. Being straightforward, Luo Xiaosu couldn't help but ask, "Why does it still hurt?" "Because tonight is the first time." "So, that night you lied." Gu Qin didn't give her the chance to continue. He kissed her again, the friction and warmth between their skins making it impossible to resist. In the dim light, Gu Qin looked at her face and suddenly remembered the first time he met her. She was a small, confused girl who had walked into the wrong school campus. Years later, her fashion sense had improved greatly, but her intelligence still left much to be desired. At midnight, Luo Xiaosu fell asleep in Gu Qin's arms. Gu Qin, however, couldn't sleep at all. He thought about the past 5 years, during which this girl named Luo Xiaosu had always been present in his life, distracting him and making it hard to concentrate on work. He realized he had to keep her in his arms to stop her from wandering. Thinking of this, Gu Qin raised his arm and pinched her cheek. "Since you've worked so hard to chase me for so many years, I'll reluctantly keep you." Luo Xiaosu slept soundly the entire night. The feeling of a human pillow was far better than any plush toy. But it was tough for Gu Qin, as his entire right arm felt numb. "Are you okay?" Luo Xiaosu asked, concerned, seeing Gu Qin wince in pain. Gu Qin's words were as harsh as ever. "Maybe you're too heavy." Luo Xiaosu felt guilty and lowered her eyes. "I'll sleep farther from you from now on." "It's okay. We'll get better with more practice." "Did you sleep well last night?" "Yes, very well." Gu Qin used his other arm to ruffle her messy hair before getting out of bed and dressing. Luo Xiaosu, watching his silhouette in the morning light, covered her face with the blanket and giggled, not realizing how loud her laughter was. Gu Qin didn't call her out on it, but her laughter gave him a good mood for the entire day. In life, there's always someone who adds a different flavor to your mundane existence. Growing up is tiring, but Luo Xiaosu always seemed naive and innocent. Gu Qin didn't want her to mature. He wanted her to stay silly forever, with him there to protect her. In the blink of an eye, 3 months had passed since Luo Xiaosu and Gu Qin got married, and the wedding date was approaching. Luo Xiaosu still hadn't figured out Gu Qin's feelings for her. Gu Qin was a tough person, always criticizing her without holding back. Every day, Luo Xiaosu felt worthless under his remarks. He was also very chauvinistic, setting a lot of rules. When Gu Qin got serious, Luo Xiaosu was actually quite afraid of him. For example, right now, Luo Xiaosu was dawdling in the living room, playing on her phone instead of going to bed. Gu Qin's tone turned unfriendly. "Hurry up and go to bed. Just a little longer. You have 3 minutes. Brush your teeth and go to bed." Luo Xiaosu, engrossed in the latest gossip on Weibo, ignored his command, leading to a prolonged standoff between them. "Luo Xiaosu, don't make me come down there." Gu Qin's tone grew harsher. Luo Xiaosu reluctantly put down her phone, obediently went to brush her teeth and wash her face, and then slowly walked to the bedroom. Gu Qin watched her with a stern expression. Luo Xiaosu glanced at him secretly, then lifted the blanket. She intended to cuddle with Gu Qin and act spoiled, but Gu Qin coldly asked, "Why did you leave the light on in the living room? Go turn it off." The grievance welled up inside Luo Xiaosu, and tears filled her eyes. "Why are you being so mean to me again?" Her hands twisted her pajamas anxiously, feeling both fearful and helpless, so she could only cry. "If you listen to me, I won't be mean to you. You just yell at me every day." Luo Xiaosu's grievance deepened. She could only remember the times he wasn't gentle, forgetting all his previous kindness. Seeing Luo Xiaosu cry softened Gu Qin's heart, and he reached out to hold her, but Luo Xiaosu pushed him away angrily. "You're just bullying me because you know I like you, right? How am I bullying you?" "In every way." "All right, don't cry. Let's talk this out." Gu Qin's body wash had a pleasant peony scent, rich and sweet with a hint of bitterness, making it irresistible. It was the scent Luo Xiaosu had become most familiar with recently, and when Gu Qin held her again, she didn't push him away. The familiar scent made her feel safe. Luo Xiaosu accused Gu Qin of various wrongdoings, like always yelling at her, calling her stupid, and making her lose confidence, while staying by his side. Gu Qin wanted to retort that anyone around him would feel the same, but seeing Luo Xiaosu so fragile, he decided not to. "I like to tease people I'm close to. If I don't know someone well, I can't be bothered. But next time, don't take it to heart, okay?" Luo Xiaosu sniffled, looking up at him seriously. "Gu Qin, why did you marry me? What other reason could there be? You're so ugly, so dumb, and so disobedient." Gu Qin listed several more criticisms, and Luo Xiaosu, who had just stopped crying, started sobbing again. "But I love you. After all, you're part of my family, and I can't reject you." After Gu Qin's heartfelt confession, Luo Xiaosu suddenly stopped crying, feeling a deep sense of relief as if she had shed an uncomfortable tight-fitting dress. In that moment, she remembered many of Gu Qin's kindnesses, such as picking out chili peppers from dishes because he knew she couldn't handle them, peeling shrimp for her when she accidentally hurt herself, and working late into the night after soothing her to sleep. He knew all her likes and dislikes, as he had followed her social media for 5 years, making it hard not to understand her. "You say you love me? Of course. Now go to sleep. Look at the time. Then you're not allowed to be mean to me in the future. If you don't listen, I have to be strict, and I might even hit you. But if you behave well, there will be rewards." "What kind of rewards?" "Kisses." As Gu Qin spoke, he leaned down and gave Luo Xiaosu a light kiss, gently wiping away her tears. "All right, stop crying." Their interactions were always so unusual, constantly testing each other's limits and comfort zones to find the most comfortable space for their existence. Each crying session and adjustment only served to bring them closer, and Luo Xiaosu, carefree as ever, fell asleep quickly while Gu Qin, holding her, reflected on himself. It seemed that he had never really given Luo Xiaosu a sense of security and had never explained that his harshness was actually a sign of his deep care. The next morning, when Luo Xiaosu woke up, Gu Qin was already gone. However, she found a notebook by the pillow and on a whim, she opened it to find Gu Qin's handwriting. There weren't many entries, but each one recorded significant moments in their journey from meeting to falling in love. The notebook also revealed everything that happened that night. She was drunk, quietly nestled in my arms. I had a desire to take care of her for a lifetime. Wouldn't it be amusing if I shamelessly told her the next day that she must be responsible for me? There was also a secret from a year ago about Luo Xiaosu's promotion. I pulled Luo Xiaosu's resume from a stack of discarded ones, pretending to be nonchalant, and asked the HR, "What about this girl?" She said the girl lacked the capability and didn't meet our hiring requirements. Lack of capability means she needs to learn more. Keep her, let her learn. That day, the words, "General Manager's wife," unexpectedly flashed in my mind. Would she be happy if she knew I liked her? I won't tell her. Touched and amused, Luo Xiaosu smiled through her tears. Gu Qin seemed to be the one who was truly childish, always playing tricks. As she continued to read, she found a ring hidden in the thick notebook, along with a handwritten page of wedding vows from Gu Qin, asking if she would marry him. She quickly turned away, afraid to let her tears spoil the notebook. At that moment, Gu Qin walked into the room. "Silly girl, why are you crying? Let's sign the papers." In today's fast-paced world, we rarely endure for the sake of love. We are quick to turn away and give up, lacking the desire and patience for long-term commitment. Love can become cheap through repeated abandonments, but fortunately, there are people like Luo Xiaosu who are willing to wait persistently. She repeatedly provided proof of her love, causing someone like Gu Qin, who was indifferent to love, to start yearning for it. Despite their many differences, Gu Qin and Luo Xiaosu loved each other. Perhaps every life craves completeness. Epilogue. That day, Gu Qin's parents walked out of his room, their expressions changing from surprise and seriousness to relief. Gu mother quietly said to Gu father, "I always thought our son was gay. He's had no girlfriend all these years." It was quite alarming. Gu father was about to respond, but Gu Qin emerged from the bedroom, now dressed. "What are you doing here suddenly?" "We brought some food for you." Gu Qin glanced at the table, seeing a few lonely eggs. Did they think he was short of eggs? It seemed their main purpose was to check up on him. Gu Qin regretted telling them the password to his home. "Son, about that girl?" "Mom, do you want a grandchild?" "Of course." Gu Qin's parents, once very particular about their future daughter-in-law, had become more open-minded after Gu Qin remained single for so many years. Now, they welcomed any woman. So, when Gu Qin asked them to play along with the pretense, they agreed without hesitation. "Must we follow our family traditions? Can't you propose properly?" "Mom, finding a wife is tough these days. Please help your son."